Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
Abundance Adventure Carte Blanche, because we're all adventuring in abundance every day in every way. So I always like to start each time my message or the sharing or the co-creation. I want to make it clear. I am up here. I do have my iPad. I am the speaker. However, we are co-creating here today. That none of what I say or anything that happens or anything that goes out with us today is just singularly about me. It's the co-creation of every single one of us in the oneness. So I always like to start with a little joke, a little giggle. And one of the reasons I like to start with a little giggle is I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to cop to it. When it comes to my spirituality and my enlightenment and my spiritual practices, I have a tendency to be very serious. I have a tendency to be like, okay, it's 7:03 and it's time to do my meditation. Okay, it's 7:41 and it's time now to do my prayer. I mean, things like that, just in my own spiritual practices. So I get to remind myself and remind the rest of us that spirit is about all those things, as well as laughter and joy and fun and the zeal of life. So this joke begins with, I'll just give you a little lead in. I was raised as a Southern Baptist girl, okay? And so the faith philosophy I came from, I was taught that there was heaven and hell, and that there was a place called heaven, and the place called heaven, the streets were lined with gold. So that's the premise. So there's someone who is on his deathbed, ready to make his transition. There's a person. And he starts bargaining with God. Well, God, I know I'm coming. I know I'm going to be there soon. I'm going to see you. However, I need to bring some of my abundance with me. And God says, well, you don't really need any abundance here. But however, okay, you've been a faithful servant. And you've been very spiritual. You've been steeped. And so, all right, you can bring something with you. You can bring one backpack. And you can put anything you'd like in that backpack that is about your abundance, your prosperity. So the person makes their transition. They get to what has been called heaven. And St. Peter, who is historically what they say who's at the gate when it comes to heaven, St. Peter gets there and the person shows up with their little backpack on. And St. Peter says, wait a minute, you don't get to bring anything in here. No. That's not the rules. You just come as you are. Come as you were when you first got to earth. And so the person says, but wait a minute, I have an exception. I made a deal with God. I have an exception. And so St. Peter says, okay, wait here a minute. So St. Peter goes into heaven, comes back and says, well, I guess you're right. God says you have an exception. And so St. Peter says, however, we have a security check here. And I need to look and see what's in that backpack. So he opens up the backpack. The backpack is filled with gold bullion like they have at the Fed. And St. Peter looks at him and says, so you brought pavement? So that also lets me know that, we all have our own different ideas of what is abundance. We all have, and abundance is in every facet of our lives. Every single solitary facet of our lives is filled to overflowing with abundance. So I want you to know this is not just to talk about money. Even though sometimes in science of mind and sometimes we metaphysicians kind of like to tiptoe around it, call it prosperity and abundance and affluence and opulence. Well, it is all of those things, and it is also the energetic that we happen to call money. It's because it's an energy. It's a vibration of the divine here on the planet. So this adventuring in Abundance Adventure Carte Blanche, that Carte Blanche came to me. And so I thought I might look up Carte Blanche so we all are on the same page as to what I mean by it, what Spirit means by it. So the definition for Carte Blanche that I found is unconditional authority, full power, and free reign. So unconditional authority, full power, and free reign. Does that sound familiar? It's what we all have in our lives. It's what we all have every single second of every day of our lives. It is the choice that we all have. We are all at choice. I was listening to someone this morning, Louise Hay. I was listening to Louise Hay this morning, and she said something, she reiterated something that I have known for a long time. However, each time I hear it, is a little bit more easing into it, which is, my life, your life, is the way it is because we chose that. Because we chose it or are choosing it. And I want to just be transparent with you. Sometimes when I hear that, I think, oh, no, Spirit, it can't be this way because I chose it. However, after years and years and years, I get it. Yes, it is about choice. So this carte blanche is really unconditional authority. We all have unconditional authority in our lives when it comes to abundance and the adventure that abundance is. I'd like to share a couple of stories with you about abundance. A little juxtaposition about abundance. The first story is about an office where in this office they have, I guess they're called a ready room or something like that. In the career I had before this, I wasn't in an office, and I'm not in an office now, so I'm not really all that familiar with it. But some place where you can go and make tea and coffee and whatever happens in yes, a break room. Thank you very much. A break room. So in this break room, the people that worked at this particular place, we'll call it a tech company. What the heck? We're in the Bay Area at this tech company. They needed spoons for their beverages, and so one person noticed that there was no spoons, and so he went out and bought 48 spoons. Excuse me. He went out and bought 48 spoons. Okay, Spirit. He went out and bought 48 spoons. Thank you, Reverend Kathy. He went out and bought 48 spoons. Reverend Kathy's going to hydrate me here. Thank you. Thank you so much. So he went out and bought 48 spoons. So as the days went by, so they were all deliriously happy. Okay, they have spoons now. So as the days went by, there were less and less and less and less spoons. Okay, so after, a certain amount of time, let's say a month, there were no spoons. Or there were 3 spoons, that was it. So the person who bought the spoons, he made sure that when the spoons were available, he'd go back in and wash the spoons, he or she or they would go back in and wash the spoons, okay, so that they had spoons. And then finally, they all were talking about, what is the reason we don't have spoons? And they came to know in their discussions with one another, they didn't have spoons anymore because each one of them, to their own intensity, had a belief in lack. Each one of them, when they got a spoon, they brought it back to their desk. And then they thought, and they realized that within them, there was a part of them that thought, I better keep the spoon because there may not be any more. I better keep this spoon so that I can have a spoon of my own. I better keep this spoon for whatever, fill in the blank. So this is an opportunity. This story, I love it because it shows how a little insidious belief in lack can creep into our everyday life. I mean, just a little easy thing like that, just a little insidious belief in lack. And an acronym for lack came through me, and lack is looking away from conscious knowing. Looking away from conscious knowing. Because we know that source and supply is everywhere present. Look around. I mean, just when I opened my eyes this morning, I knew that source and supply is everywhere present. When I opened my eyes and was able to get myself out of my bed, I knew that source and supply is everywhere present. I mean, just the fact that we all get to sit on these lovely plush chairs here, source and supply is everywhere present. You know, there isn't a place, there is no spot where God is not. Okay, there is not a place where God is not. I mean, and we're very blessed that we live in an area of the country, I feel to be blessed that we live in an area of the country that wherever you look, you see source and supply, the blessings of the divine. As well as there are blessings of the divine that show up in our lives that come wrapped up in the highest density sandpaper. That is to say that source and supply brings us things and opportunities and challenges for our growth, learning, and expansion that sometimes comes wrapped in something that doesn't feel so comfy or doesn't feel so good or just feels downright upsetting. So this first story about the spoons and the break room, thank you, is just to let us know how insidiously it can creep in, how it might even be a part of our day-to-day thinking, and I am not aware of it. I want to use the I messages here. It's not you, me, they. I may not be aware of it. Now, there's another story I'd like to juxtaposition here with it, is the story that we probably all know about, the story of the loaves and the fishes. And this is a famous Bible story, even if you were raised Muslim. Even my Muslim friends know this story. And basically it was Jesus was hanging out and with his disciples and giving a speech, and they said, well, let's have something to eat. And the disciples said, well, there's nothing to eat. There's one person over here with 2 loaves of bread and a few fishes, 3 or 4 fishes. And Jesus said, okay, cool, we're in, because source and supply, because I know, I believe, I am. The I am that I am supplies. So they started eating, and it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And this is the way the story is represented in the Bible. I want to make that clear, kind of a little disclaimer here. And for us metaphysicians, it really is just, for me, it's a story of the more that I desire, the more shows up. The more that I immerse myself into the place of possibly the thought of need like that, the more shows up. And the loaves and the fishes story, of course, they ended up, I looked it up because I know it from the time I'm like this big, because in my family, I'm from a very, 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 very religious family. And one of the things in our family, my parents, very forward thinking, we all got to read something every day, and then we got to give a book report to our parents. And if you were the kid who, how can I put this delicately, who the teachers called in about, and parents had to go to school because she was talking too much, one of the things that I got to read instead of a regular fiction book was the Bible. We all read the Bible, but I got to read the Bible a lot. So this loaves and fishes story, one of my favorites from when I was a little girl. However, it did say that the loaves and fishes story, when they got done, they had enough for leftovers. Yeah, they fed 5,000, and then they had enough for leftovers, because the disciples asked, what do we do with the leftovers? And supposedly Jesus said, give it to those who don't have food. Yeah, so this is, juxtapositioning that this is also in our lives. The loaves and fishes is not just a fun story to hear about or talk about. It really is the truth of who and what I am, who and what you are, who and what we are, who and what they are, because the only way that Spirit can bring to the planet the generosity and the givingness and the limitlessness of itself is through you and me, through each and every one of us. It doesn't show up any other way. So you're probably thinking, okay, all right, Reverend Verona, I'm with you. I hope you are. I'm with you. Okay, so what are our discovery tools for this? In what way do we give ourselves an opportunity to participate in this? Because as we all know, as Ernest Holmes says, it's one of my favorites, principle is not bound by precedent. And when I want to give you a little trivia. Our beloved Reverend Harriet was my practitioner teacher. Yay! Anyway, and when I was in practitioner training, that quote was a hard one for me. Principle is not bound by precedent. What the heck does that mean, Ernest? However, what really I'm saying here is what may have happened before, or what the principle that we hold, the knowingness of source and supply, opulence, wealth, limitlessness in, through, and as each one of us, it's not bound by the precedent of what may have happened even this morning. Even if you got up and you wanted to make coffee in your favorite coffee grounds where you didn't have them anymore. Or even if, like me, I got up this morning and thought, I think I'll have a boiled egg for some protein, and then it dawned on me, you haven't boiled any eggs yet, Verona. So, that's what that sort of thing. So there are 4 ways, easy peasy ways, that are available to us, spiritual practices, for the discovery tools of the abundance adventure, limitless, infinite, and carte blanche in our lives. So the first thing is gratitude, of course. Gratitude. And gratitude is an energetic all on its own. If we are grateful, it creates a vacuum. And as we all know, as metaphysicians, the universe abhors a vacuum. So the more we give thanks for, the more pours into us. It's just a real easy law of circulation. And what I'm talking about here in these 4 tools that we have is the law itself, the law making itself known in, through, and as each one of us. So the first one is gratitude. Second one is the F word, forgiveness. Forgiveness. Yes, and forgiveness unblocks the flow. And as we know, if we break down forgiveness, it's forgiving, okay? And forgiveness can be a daily practice. For me, it is. Forgiveness, we get to forgive and forgive and forgive and forgive and forgive. And the first person on the list of forgiving is ourselves. Yeah, it's me. Yeah, the first person we get to forgive. We get to just deluge ourselves with compassion and understanding. So that's the second tool. Third tool is self-love and self-identification. Knowing who and whose we are. And in the Science of Mind reading from Ernie, who I like to call him that, it said, we must learn to come under the divine government and accept the fact that nature's table is forever filled. Yeah, and that really what got me was we must learn to come under the divine government, and not government like you learned in social studies in middle school, but the divine government of the divine. We are governed, you know. We are governed by spirit, and we are the governors, because each one of us is spirit incarnate. You know, when we look in the mirror in the morning, we are looking into the eyes of the divine. So sacred, so wonderful, so glorious, something that we get to remember every single day, every single second, every single moment. Even if when you wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, you're like me, my hair's everywhere, maybe like, whoa, who is that in the mirror? Who is that girl? However, yeah, we get to know that if we allow ourselves to be under the divine government of spirit, or under the sacred government of spirit, yeah, that the feast table is always available. The feast table is always available. And really, spirit is always, in all ways, waiting for our RSVP. In all things. Spirit is just, you know, there. Well, I'm not anthropomorphizing spirit, but spirit is there on the cell phone like, come on, send the text. Come on. Yeah. It's there for us. It's available for us. So that's the third way. Oh, and the fourth way for us to use these tools is generosity and giving. And as Edwene, the queen of prosperity, the goddess of prosperity, as she said, you could tell I love her, as she said in her reading, money is like love. The more you give away, the more you have. That's how it works. The more you give away, the more you have. It is a law of circulation. And the more we give away, the more we have. So all of these things, gratitude, forgiveness, self-love and self-identification, generosity and givingness, are the tools that we get to use to be on the adventure of abundance, to make it a carte blanche adventure. Now, I'd like to say to you, you might be thinking, I love this. These are spiritual practices I already use, Reverend Verona. How can you explain to me how that's working for you? In what way in your life has it shown up? So I was being with this, what's the example? What's the example? What's the example? And the example happened yesterday afternoon. So I am blessed to have 2 children who Jack and I were talking about. Can't believe they're grown-ups, but one is 33 and one is 30, and the 33-year-old is a pretty high-powered, very focused businesswoman. And she gets to go to New York for business trips regularly, and I love New York. And so last fall, we went to New York together, and when we went, it was a real opportunity of growth for me, because we got to New York City. We were in Chicago first, got to New York City, and then we got there, and I had decided in my mind that this was a girl's vacation. This is the important part here. I had decided that. We get there, we get to our lovely hotel overlooking the Hudson. I'm ecstatic. Well, then my daughter let me know, Mom, I'm working. and I'm working 12 hours every day. So I got an opportunity to, of course, use my own spiritual practices to not take it personally, to not decide that my adult daughter didn't want to spend time with her mother, all these sorts of things. And it ended up being a spectacular vacation for me because I realized, okay, it's me and Spirit. We're on vacation in NYC. So I got to do a lot of things. Now, skip to yesterday. My daughter says to me, oh, and I have been writing out and praying and knowing vacations of discovery and exploration and adventure and all sorts of things like that for myself. And I'm very blessed. I happen to be retired, and so I can go on vacation anytime I like. So that's just what I've been knowing for myself in my heart of hearts. Like, I could feel it. It was the desire of the heart of God that was coming up through me. Yesterday afternoon, I get to go shopping with my daughter. We go on a little shopping excursion. And she says to me, hey, Mom, I found out I'm going to New York again on business. Would you like to go? You're welcome to come. Stay with me in my hotel room. Would you like to go? And I know you know what to do because you know New York really well. Okay, so it hit me like, yes. Thank you, Spirit. And I did say to her, oh, yes, absolutely. I'm going to look up today, this evening, what play I'm going to go see. Thank you. However, what really came through for me is that I just completed teaching a 21-day class on abundance and prosperity called the Abundance Adventure. And in the time of teaching that class, I really intensified my spiritual practices when it comes to abundance because I'm teaching it, I'm in it, as well as it's my everyday practice. I realize it's part of the purpose that I am here for, just like Edwin Gaines, to open prosperity to the heart and the beingness of every single person on the planet, and especially to the people who look like me, who happen to have my skin color, who happen to look like me, and everyone else, everybody, so everyone can know that prosperity is our birthright. However, yesterday after she said that to me, and I said, oh yeah, sure, I'll go, just give me the date, I realized that this was a demonstration of what I had been knowing and praying and accepting, a vacation of discovery, exploration, excitement, and all sorts of things like that. And I realized when I had done my work on the past time we were in New York together, I was grateful. I was grateful that I was there no matter if it didn't look the way that I thought it needed to look. A mother-daughter vacation. I was also forgiving, and the forgiveness first was to myself, but also the forgiving, and then I forgave my daughter for having the nerve to work 12-hour days at a job that she really loves. That's with the tech company that's required. However, the forgiveness part I realized was I forgave myself for making assumptions. I forgave myself for making assumptions. And I also forgave myself for jumping into that spot of that little place of insecurity, like, well, maybe she doesn't want to hang out with her mother. However, I forgave myself for that thinking and really realized, however, in the next thing, self-love and self-identification. Well, of course, because she and I are one. All the people, she and I and every single person in New York City, we're all one, so I got to do self-identification too in that knowingness. And then the generosity of giving love to myself, giving love to her, giving love to every single person I encountered there. And the generosity of the givingness of it all. And I realized, these 4 spiritual practices were the ones that brought me through previously, and then they popped up in my mind yesterday when I realized, okay, yay! And this is a demonstration, a manifestation of the prayer, the contemplation, even the visioning that I am having for the vacations of my life from this moment forward. So I'd like to give you some growth work, not homework, growth work, because there are some ways that you can use these spiritual practices, easy peasy ways. For gratitude, I'd like you to write 5 notes of gratitude. Write 5 notes of gratitude, and especially to the people who do all the things they regularly do all the time. Like John back there on the camera, Jack back there on sound, Suzanne who sings like an angel. Yeah, write 5 notes. This is the gratitude. This is really this is the easy part. However, it's the human part too, because sometimes we might get a little cerebral and then we realize, wait a minute, the soul in me is ready to get out there in the world and bring it. So that's the first one, for the gratitude. The second, forgiveness. And the forgiveness is hold gently in your heart anyone who you have not forgiven or feel that you may not be able to forgive. Just hold them gently in your heart. No need to forgive, no need to. The only prerequisite here is willingness to just hold them in your heart. That's it. The next one, self-identification. Self-identification, self-love is, I want to ask you to participate in whatever your heart directs. Not so much desires, but whatever your heart directs. Because whatever your heart directs is, as we know, a direct message from Spirit. I didn't mean to use those two words next to each other, but it is a succinct message from Spirit. And the third one, generosity. Now, this is one that the minister in me is giving you this because I am. The generosity, tithe to the place where you are spiritually fed, which I'm sure you all do. And another way is to give an anonymous gift. Give an anonymous gift. And that can be as easy as, I do this a lot, and when I do this, sometimes the anonymous gift I give is I take a little pad of Post-it notes, and I write on the little pad, you are loved, you are loved, you are loved. I loved your song because we would write with this, you are loved more than you'll ever know. And I put it on the rear view mirror of people's cars on the driver's side. Yeah, when you go Safeway, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, all the places, Nordy's. Yeah, so those are really some ways that we can do this in the humanness of us. However, in the soul and in the spirit of us, it's gratitude, forgiveness, self-love, self-identification, givingness, and generosity. Because as we step into these spiritual practices, the adventure of abundance that expresses itself through and as each one of us soars, it skyrockets, it flows, it deluges, it is the truth of who and what each one of us is, Spirit incarnate.
I walk in God in all I do. I walk in God in all that I say.